Hey everyone, my name is Mason, and welcome to my channel. Over the last year, I have started to dabble into home automation. I am by no means an expert in this area, but I've been having a lot of fun with it. I'm making this video to show an overview of my current setup, and I plan to make some others that go into more specific detail on some of the pieces that I'm going to show off. I hope you enjoy. Now let's start off with the most important part of any smart home, the hub that ties everything together. For me, that hub is a Raspberry Pi 3 that is running Home Assistant, and more specifically, using the HASS.io operating system. I went with this option for a few reasons. First of all, Home Assistant is a free, open source program, which means you don't need to pay for the software initially, or for any future updates that are released. This also means that anyone from the Home Assistant community can contribute to those updates, giving a lot of flexibility and potential for progress. With this community of developers, there's now a very large library of components or devices that can be tied into Home Assistant, and more are being added all the time. There's also a growing list of add-ons that can be easily installed from the Home Assistant user interface and make maintaining your smart home much easier. One of the other main reasons I went with Home Assistant is for the powerful automation it offers. I've only started to scratch the surface with these, but the opportunities really are endless. Now let's take a look at some of the current devices that I have configured. We can start with presence detection. Any good home automation application needs to know whether or not you're at home to make things run smoother. I've tried a couple options out previously that were not as reliable as I would have liked. These included having my router ping our phones at a regular interval to see if we were on the network, and also the app own tracks. Both of these were hit and miss on their reliability, causing my wife and I to randomly get flagged as away when we're actually still at home. We would wake up in the night and have lights that got turned on or the temperature for the thermostat being set incorrectly. So needless to say, we were looking for a better option. A couple of weeks ago, I started using a new app called Life 360. So far, Life 360 has proven to be much more reliable for presence detection. I'll go ahead and pull up the tracker for myself so you can take a look. This was actually a Saturday where I spent most of the day at home, minus one quick errand that I had to run. And as you can see, it's accurately reflecting that in the presence detection here. It's tracking me while I was home in the morning, then when I had to step out to run that errand, and then when I got back home. This reliability is really important for setting up any of the automations or conditions that you might want to check whether or not you're at home or away for. I'm planning to put together a more in-depth video on this topic, including how I have my automation set up based on us being home and away. If you're interested in seeing that, feel free to subscribe. Next, we have climate control. Our home actually already had a Nest installed when we were moving in. This was super easy to add into Home Assistant and then also tie into various automations. We also have MyQ from Chamberlain set up for our garage door opener. You can see that here. Next, let's talk about lights. Right now we have a total of 5 individually controllable switches. The first 2 are used to control lamps in the basement and in the family room. These are controlled by Sonoff switches that are wired into extension cords. Sonoff switches communicate with a broker using the MQTT protocol. I won't go into too much more detail in this video on the specifics there, but at a high level, these switches can be triggered remotely to turn off and on anything plugged into the extension cords. For the switch setup in the basement, we actually have 2 lamps plugged into the extension cord. From here I can toggle it on, both of those lamps will be on now, and similarly I can turn it back off. And same thing for the family room. The next 2 lights here are GE paddle light switches. I'll put a link in the description in case you want to see the exact model. These are actually installed in place of a normal light switch, so they can still be toggled on and off at the physical switch. They also use a Z-Wave protocol, to communicate back with the hub, allowing them to tie into Home Assistant and be controlled remotely. I actually got a new GE add-on switch for Christmas that I'm planning to install. It'll be used with one of the standard switches to create a three-way circuit, which will be the first one of these that I'm setting up. I'm thinking about recording the installation process of the three-way switch as well as adding them into Home Assistant. If you're interested in seeing that, let me know in the comments. The final light switch is a GoControl dimmer paddle switch. This is used in our master bedroom. We really like having a dimmer switch in here for reading in the evenings and having softer light in the morning. We also really like being able to control this light remotely from our phones or with voice command without having to get out of bed. For that reason, it was the first one that I installed. If I was to do it again though, I would not actually go with the GoControl light switch. It was a little bit cheaper, which is why I chose it at the time, but it does not actually send the responding Z-Wave message back to the hub when it's toggled physically. This means that the state reported on the user interface can get out of sync with how the light is actually triggered. I may replace it in the future, but for now it still works, and I have plenty of other switches I want to update first. Lastly, you can see this giant bar of media players in the middle of the screen. These actually represent 4 Google Homes, 3 of which are minis as well as 2 Chromecasts. The main Google Home is in the family room. We also have a mini in the basement, the master bedroom, and the office. From any one of these, you can use voice commands to control any of the other components or devices that I already talked about. Similarly, for TV, my wife and I generally only use Netflix and YouTube, which allows us to control what we want just through voice commands on the Chromecast as well. That brings us to the end of what I wanted to show in this overview video. I'm planning to continue to add more devices over time, making my house a little bit smarter. If you want to see more specifics on anything that I touched on, please let me know in the comments. I've also have a few ideas for videos that highlight certain configurations and automations that I have set up currently. If that sounds interesting to you, make sure to subscribe to check those out. Thanks for watching.